only thing on your screen should be the notes, and let's break it down a little bit. So Lincoln Douglas, if you look on the word wall, is technically called Lincoln Douglas debate, but it's basically never called that. Almost always we'll just call it LD. There's usually a dash in between the Lincoln and Douglas, but in the acronym, the shortened version, you don't need to put the dash. And if you do Lincoln Douglas, you're an LDer, okay? So Lincoln Douglas is based off of presidential debates. That usually when someone's running for president, they will debate in front of people so that people can decide, I want to vote for you, I don't want to vote for you. And so this type of debate is actually modeled off of those presidential debates. Back when Abraham Lincoln was running for president, which is obviously a long time ago, he was running against a man named Stephen Douglas. So it's actually modeled after that. But here's the other reason Lincoln Douglas was created. People were afraid of policy. Because remember when I taught you policy yesterday, I showed you the video of them speed reading. Do you remember that? And they're talking insanely fast. So debate programs cost a lot of money to run. And people would donate money to debate programs. We're lucky in Canyons District. They spend the money and we don't have to raise the money ourselves. But in other places in the country, they have to raise all that money themselves. So they'll convince businesses, donate money to our program. And then they'll let the business owners come be guest judges as a mark of honor. But then what was happening in the debate world is those people would come and they would see these policy debaters reading so insanely fast. And we're like, what? I don't understand. And so people stopped donating as much money, which is bad because then it was a lot harder to have tournaments. Okay, so then go back and refresh and see if there's any more. Okay. And so the National Speech and Debate Association, Lincoln Douglas actually isn't that old. It's based on old debates, but in the grand scheme of all the 21 types of speech and debate, it's actually not that old because it was created specifically to help judges not be afraid of policy. So people aren't supposed to read crazy fast. It's supposed to be just good debating. And what's happened, though, it's kind of funny. In middle school debate, it is. It's understandable. People are talking at a level that you can actually understand. High school debate, though, in the past couple of years has started turning into policy debate, where LD in high school, they're spewing, they're reading really fast, they're doing lots of things that they weren't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to be that. So anyways, it's just kind of interesting. Okay, so we're going to watch a couple little intro videos. This one's a little bit funny. Turn your screens around. Screens. And let's just wrap our brains around it. But honestly, so many of the skills in the speech and debate world transfer into other types of speech and debate. So that's why Lincoln Douglas, we won't have to spend that long on it. It's really easy to learn because of all the other stuff that we've already done. So sit back. Oh, I should turn that off. No.
How to learn Lincoln Douglas debate. Lincoln Douglas debate is a one-on-one forensic competition format modeled after historic debates between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas. Learn how to participate. You will need a forensic competition, research, an opponent, 3x5 index cards, pens or pencils, and a legal pad. Step 1. Choose the affirmative or negative side of a given topic. A Lincoln Douglas format is a debate judged on the moral validity of one ideal over an opposing ideal. Other debate formats are judged on the more practical application of a debate position. Step 2. Research your stance. Write notes with source citations on 3x5 index cards to be used as evidence during the debate. Step 3. Use a legal pad held horizontally to create a Lincoln Douglas debate flowsheet. Divide the page or pages into 7 sections, one for each round of the debate. Before participating in the debate, fill in your side's evidence points on the appropriate sections on the flow sheet. Leave the opponent's sections empty for note-taking during the debate. Step 4. State your position clearly and support it with 3 or more facts during the opening round if you're affirmative. Step 5. Aim your questions at your opponent's opening statement with a strategy that points out flaws and negative implications of your opponent's position if you're negative. Step 6. Present your opposing statement clearly with supporting facts during the opening round if you're negative. Step 7. Cross-examine the opponent's negative position if you're affirmative. Cross-examination rounds in Lincoln Douglas format debates typically have 3-minute time limits. Step 8. Make a rebuttal speech if you're affirmative. This 4-minute rebuttal round will serve to rebuild your case. Step 9. Make your rebuttal speech if you're negative. The negative rebuttal round has a 6 or 7-minute time limit. Step 10. State your final case in a 3 or 4-minute rebuttal of your opponent's negative position if you're affirmative. Did you know Senator Hillary Clinton challenged Senator Barack Obama to a Lincoln Douglas format debate during the 2008 Democratic presidential primaries?
Which is right after I graduated from high school. Okay, one more, but we're not going to watch the whole thing. We're just going to watch the first little bit so you can see what it really looks like, because that one was kind of silly. So just a little bit, okay? Keep watching. You're doing good.
Is everyone ready? Can we begin? Excellent.
Lincoln Douglas debate, or LD, addresses what we value. During a round, questions on morality, justice, or how society should function are examined. Essentially, LD examines the merit of various ideals. This values debate is centered on a resolution, or debate topic. On the affirmative side, a student advocates for the resolution. The negative, then, opposes the resolution. Each student presents his or her case, sometimes called a constructive or position, and refutes his or her opponent's arguments. By the end of the debate, you decide the debater most successful in defending his or her side of the resolution. There are a few considerations to keep in mind when determining the winner: structure of argumentation, framework level argumentation, and offense back to the standard.
Okay, so that's enough. We don't need to watch anymore for that. So, next thing is just like policy. You have to understand the topic just a little bit before you make a decision, and you have to then understand how it works just a little bit. But like I said, it's going to be pretty fast. So this year's topic, it's chosen in a different way than the policy topic. The policy topic is chosen through voting, through the NSDA. But this topic is chosen because of the high school topics. And the high school topics are chosen by the NSDA, but on purpose, we take last year's high school topics and we pick the one we think is the best, and we do that for middle school so that there's a lot of resources already ready to help you, because there's a lot of high schoolers did it last year. So in high school, the topic changes every 3 months, but in middle school, it changes halfway through the year. So the first half of the semester, or the first half of this year, it was a different topic. So go ahead and turn around your screens. This one, you would just write down right to housing. Right to housing is this year's topic, which is a pretty good one. The only thing I don't like about it is I think AF of the affirmative will have a little bit of an easier time, but there are good arguments on both sides. So remember, everybody, resolution is just a fancy way of saying what? Topic. Okay, so that's on your notes as well. And the topic is right to housing. So the United States ought to guarantee right to housing. And so let's watch just a little bit of this video to get you thinking about what that really is asking us to debate. Because one side is going to say, yes, that should be a right. And the other side is going to try and argue, no, that shouldn't be a right. So sorry, I'm going to make you turn around your screens again. Go ahead. Screens facing forward one more time.
In America, we have plenty of well-known rights. The right to say what we want, the right to bear arms, the right to not incriminate ourselves in court. But what about the right to a house? In the 1940s, a psychologist named Abraham Maslow put forward his theory of the hierarchy of needs, the stuff all human beings need to survive. At the base of the pyramid, the things most crucial to survival are food, water, sleep, and shelter. How important in the hierarchy of needs is shelter?
I would argue that shelter is among the most important. If we do housing well, that means that healthcare outcomes improve. That means public safety improves. That means employment outcomes improve. That means education outcomes improve. We're able to make use of some of our great education resources if we've got families in stable housing.
If you apply that idea today, it means that more than 500,000 people in this country on any given night are going without one of the most basic things they need to survive.
A housing crisis has turned into a very visible problem for the city of Minneapolis.
For the last couple of days, we've all been feeling the brutally cold weather, but imagine if you didn't have a place to live. You didn't have heat. That is the actual reality for about 200 men, women, and children who are living at a homeless encampment.
How did that happen? How did the encampment happen?
Yeah, so the what we saw last year at Franklin and Hiawatha, first of all, was really, one way of looking at that is that it was a concentration and a gathering of something that is happening every night across the city now. People started to gather on that spot. It was organic. It was, word of mouth. And 10 tents became 20 tents, became 40 tents, became more than 100 tents.
Many countries across the world have decided a situation like this is unacceptable.
A little bit more.
And they've put in place countless laws and programs basically saying a safe place to live is a fundamental human right, right up there with the freedom of religion and all the others.
It got us thinking, if we made America from scratch today, is this something that we would take up? When our country was founded on the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what kind of life did the founding fathers think that we all had a right to?
2 centuries ago, land was cheap, and homes were something you built yourself out of logs and mud. Today, housing is driven by economics, and if you want a home, you need to buy into the system, often at levels average people can't afford.
Which has led to the creation of countless nonprofit and humanitarian organizations that are trying to give everyone a housing option, regardless of their income.
We have been successful in rehousing thousands of households.
Wow.
In our country, what we suffer from is actually the fact that as we are doing that work with an individual or a family, there is another one down the street who is getting pushed out of housing. The problem is that their folks are losing housing at a slightly higher rate than we are rehousing them.
But in a country where the self-made, self-sufficient person is held as the gold standard, there are plenty of reasons people don't believe housing is a right. Is there a stigma that people with housing have in regards of homelessness, that they just don't know about homelessness? Like when we think about homelessness, we just think, oh, this person doesn't have a house.
Yeah.
What is a way to clear that stigma up or get people educated to what exactly homelessness is?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question, and I'm glad you asked. This sort of crisis, as we were talking about the types of crisis we were talking about before, it can affect many people. When I look at what folks who are staying with our shelter here, what their path looks like versus mine, oftentimes I think about the crises that I've been able to navigate, and the difference between my situation and theirs was very simply that I had a family that was able to step in and support me when I was.
Okay, so that's enough. Before you turn your screens around, I want to tell you my experience with getting a house, because it's part of why this is a good debate topic and why it's debatable. Yeah, Adam. Can you possibly wait for just a couple minutes? If you really have to, you can talk. But so when I was becoming a teacher at Albion, that's also when I bought my house. I live out in West Jordan, and at that time, Utah, the whole housing system tanked and burned for almost everybody. Zoe, this for you. So I was lucky while almost everyone else was unlucky, because other people who had spent their whole life paying for their house, which is what you spend most of your paycheck on, they all of a sudden couldn't make their house payment anymore. So then people had to sell their houses at a huge loss and move into something much smaller. And for me, I got lucky because of their misfortune. But because of that, I got my house for way cheaper than it should have been. My house was still a lot. It was $178,000. But that, compared to normal house prices, is really, really good. And I got lucky because I, number one, had just gotten a big job, which is how you convince a bank to loan you $178,000, and then you pay the bank back slowly. And I was also lucky because my parents were able to loan me what's called a down payment, which is you have to give the bank a big chunk of money. Let's count that. Yeah, it's okay. So I was also lucky because I had that support. Then, as soon as I bought my house, 1 month later, Utah's house prices started climbing an insane amount. So nowadays, my house, it's not nicer. It's a big house, but it didn't all of a sudden get nicer. My house nowadays is worth $600,000 for no other reason than lots and lots of people are moving into Utah. And so Utah's population is getting a lot bigger, which means there's less houses available, which drives the prices up. So I got in right at the right time, but it's because I got lucky. If I had to buy a house right now, I would have had a way harder time. And so one of the reasons why this is so debatable is there are just so many different types of people, and there's so many reasons why this is a major part of life, and there's different ways you can argue it. But for us at Albion, generally, not for every single person, but generally, us at Albion, we are pretty financially stable. But we are very much not normal at Albion. Almost every other school in Utah has a large population of their students that are homeless, and some schools are much more than others. The first school I taught at down in downtown Salt Lake, half of the school was qualified as homeless, which meant some of them were like living in a car, some of them were living in the homeless shelter, some of them were living with their aunt in their basement, right? Stuff like that. That is all of those things qualify as homeless. And so for us, it might be weird to kind of think about the other people's experience, but we are not normal. Most people, lots of people in America are living in poverty and barely have somewhere to live, and often that changes, and we are just lucky that we kind of have people who we can lean on when we need help, which is basically what he just said. So it's a good topic. So go ahead, turn your screens around. I'm going to make you do a little bit more of the thinking. I didn't bold the main point. You have to figure out how to condense it. You don't need to write down the whole thing, but if you're AF, you might try and argue that investing in housing not only creates jobs, if we actually did agree with the topic, but it also breaks the cycle of poverty and gives future generations the opportunity to thrive. So it's me convincing the judge, yeah, we should totally have the right to housing. All these good things would happen. Or you might try and flip how we think about the topic if you're AF. And you might say, right to housing? What does that even mean? Like when we're saying housing, it's not a one-size-fits-all. What if what we're really saying is we should focus on the most disadvantaged people? Because us right here, we probably don't need the right to housing because we're lucky enough that we just don't have that problem. But it doesn't mean other people don't. So instead, what we really should worry about is right to housing for people who need more help. And what does it even mean when we're saying right to housing? It's a very debatable topic. Okay, so there's good AF arguments. Neg is a little bit harder, but neg, I think the strongest negative argument is the US government does not have the resources to do this. If we're saying it should be a right, it's going to cost them an insane amount of money. So this is a Googleable thing. Does anybody, there's usually at least one kid, does anyone know how much debt the US is currently in?
Like 1.2 trillion.
What's your guess?
I was like 5 trillion.
Okay. Everyone go open up a new tab. Type in US debt calculator.
This is 36 trillion.
It's 36 trillion. And so being in debt means you're spending more money than you actually have. And that's why it's such a good negative argument. For them to actually do right to housing would probably cost about $4 trillion. And if we're already $36 trillion in debt, and that's a problem, right? Because that means America owes other countries money because we've spent more than we have, then that might be a really good argument, yeah.
$36 trillion in debt to who?
Some of it, a lot of it is China owns a lot of our debt. They've loaned us money, other countries too. So, but that's a problem. To dig yourself out of being in that much debt, that's, yeah, an issue, yeah.
Like for like resources? Like we paid other countries for resources?
So, as in like when all of a sudden we had to spend tons of money on COVID, like they just pumped tons of money into that problem, right? But like that happens. You have to pay for problems, but how are you paying for it? Yeah.
I heard that, like, you know, Elon Musk
Mhm.
and Trump are kind of working together to get the U.S. government out.
Yeah, and but it will probably take many years, and to fully get out of debt is probably going to be impossible. But it's kind of also just normal nowadays. Like, yep, we're just in debt. That's a thing. So yeah.
How can the government be in debt if we're...
Yeah, so just like I got a loan from the bank to pay for my $178,000 house, and then I now am paying the bank every month most of my paycheck to pay for that loan, we get loans from other countries, and then we have to pay them back a little bit over time. Yeah, but governments can go into debt too. Yeah, so it's weird, and lots of kids your age have never thought about this. Okay, another negative argument is saying, and there is research to prove this, so if you do LD, I'll give you the research, but there is a piece of research that says, actually, if we guarantee the right to housing, you shouldn't vote for that, because it actually increases the cost of houses for everybody else. So we won't get too far into that right now. If you do LD, I'll help you with that, yeah.
Has the U.S. been in debt before?
Oh yeah, for like forever, basically. Yeah, for a really long time. So it's kind of old news. It's actually not as scary as it sounds, because it's been for a really long time, yeah.
My uncle
was telling me about in like Zimbabwe, they print so much money that everyone there is just like poor.
Yeah. Well, because one of the things you can do is try and tax people more to pay for your debt, but then that causes other issues. So yeah, it's a very complex issue, and it's very debatable. Yeah.
What are the first two ones?
So tell me what it says.
Modeled after
Presidential debates, and then resolution means topic. Yeah.
Doesn't the U.S. government still owe like the Spanish stuff for like the Spain a bunch of money?
Probably. I don't actually know, but probably.
They helped out for, like, the getting the
I can see that. I'm not sure. It's probably Googleable. Yeah. Oh, okay. Just make sure. Okay, so that's enough about the topic. And see how you guys are kind of interested because you're like, what? This is crazy. I didn't know this. If you're interested, you might want to do LD because it is a good topic. So, but that's enough about it. Let's learn how LD works, and it doesn't take anywhere near as long as policy. So, we already know how to read this a lot. There are some stuff on your notes you should be filling in. So, just like policy, we have two parts to the debate. First half of the debate, second half of the debate. Okay, what does A stand for? Shout it out. AF. Everybody? AF. And N stands for? Negative. And C stands for? Constructive. And in constructive speeches, what are we doing? We're building, which means I wrote it before the tournament and I'm reading you my speech. Okay, so AF has a constructive speech. They have 4 minutes. Then neg, what's CX? Cross-examination. Neg is going to attack AF after they read their speech and try and make them look bad. Then neg has their constructive speech, which is 5 minutes. I'll tell you why. And then after they're done, the AF is going to attack neg. Okay, so that's the constructive block. So then, just like policy, there's prep time. Before rebuttals start happening, everybody should use their prep time, and they're going to say, hey, I need a minute and a half of my prep. And then everything stops, and you have time to just sit and make your plan of attack. And rebuttals, remember, what do? Rebuttals are attacking. And I have a gold star. Can anyone remember the other thing that should also be happening in rebuttals? I should attack and... yes, but not the one I was thinking of, but still yes. Exactly, go get a gold star off my desk. Rebuttals really are two things. I'm attacking you and I'm defending myself. So, AF, rebuttal, 2 minutes, neg, rebuttal, 3 minutes, AF, rebuttal, 2 minutes. AF has the last word. So, on your notes, it says, even though the time limits look uneven, if you added it all up, AF and neg, they are actually even though they don't look like it. So that's the answer, even. The reason why they're kind of wonky like this is really just because it's modeled after Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas's debate. And we just haven't changed it since that long. So it looks weird, but everyone does actually talk for the same amount of time. Yeah.
For the CX for
cross-examination.
Does it just like attacking?
Exactly. After this person built all their arguments, I'm going to try and tear them down for 2 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're done with that. That's pretty easy. So as far as speeches go in Lincoln Douglas, this is one of your answers. You are going to prep both sides, which policy would do also. So make sure you're getting that on your notes, guys, that you're going to prep both sides, because at the tournament, you will do AF and neg, and same in policy. But remember, guys, at the tournament, you have 3 debates in front of 3 judges with 3 different opponents. And you don't know if it's going to go AF, neg, AF, or neg, AF, neg. So you don't know if you're going to have 2 AF or 2 neg, because it gets randomly assigned at the tournament. So you prep both sides. Some kids like that the speeches are pre-written and that they don't have to memorize like oratory. And I will help you step by step. Writing your speeches, we'll just do it during class. And usually LDers can kind of work together. Yeah.
Can you have all 3 be AF?
It's not supposed to happen because the software is supposed to prevent it. So very rarely does that happen, and it's because if it does, something went wrong. Okay? So research in LD is different than policy. Some kids get freaked out by policy of like, I have to have how much research? Because remember, good policy teams, you shouldn't say anything that you don't have research for, right? Because a good opponent would be like, where's the evidence, right? But in LD, some of the arguments are more researched, but you can also have personal opinions in LD. So that's a big difference. And one cool thing our district does is they buy you an evidence packet. And it's intimidating on one hand because it's 600 pages of research, but it's also 600 pages of research that you didn't have to go find yourself. So it does save you a lot of time. Okay? And go ahead and on your notes, on your notes it says LD is based on, and the answer is philosophy. And this is honestly the only hard thing about LD. The only other hard thing is actually debating. But Philosophy is technically more of a high school level idea, but usually debaters are very with it, and you guys can handle it. But it's not as crazy as it sounds, and I will help you with it if you do LD, but this is really the only hard part. So show me your screens really quick, and this is just 2 minutes, okay? Yeah.
Does policy get a research packet?
Policy, yes. We talked about how at the state level, they put together a ton of resources that does have a bunch of research. Plus, there's a website where people just dump all their research, and lots of policy kids use that.
In philosophy, what we do is we like to take ideas and ask basic questions. What is it? What does it mean? How does it work? What's it for?
Philosophy studies the most fundamental ideas in our conceptual scheme and how they apply to things in the world.
Philosophy, as I see it, is the use of reason and argumentation to address questions like, does God exist? Can you ever really know anything? Are we free, or is somehow everything determined? What'll happen to me when my body dies? What's the difference between right and wrong?
Those kind of questions that we don't really have answers for in science, we just sort of have to think about them. And we use thought experiments, sort of hypothetical scenarios, to sort of figure out what we believe about things. And in the end, what we try to do is develop what we call a worldview, which is sort of all the beliefs that you have. And what we want is to have the most reasonable possible set of all beliefs. And so we investigate our beliefs, we think about arguments, we might compare our beliefs with others, and we might give reasons and counterarguments for why we hold the beliefs that we have. And at the end of that project, we hope to have a really solid, coherent set of views about the world that are reasonable and complete, and that we can feel comfortable with, that we sort of know where we fit in the world and how we think about all those things.
So policy is very much, I have the facts. I will destroy you with the facts. LD, some kids like it more because LD is more philosophical of how do we answer unanswerable questions. It's a little more hypothetical, and that's why there's different types. That kids who don't want to just be all fact-based, they might want to go more for LD. This is weird, but the teachers have been talking a lot how we're making y'all sit for way too long. Everyone stand up for just a second. You can go to the bathroom, but be really, really fast. I'm just trying to build in movement breaks. I know this is really dumb, but everyone just I don't care what you do, but just wake your brain up. Stretch a little. It doesn't matter what you're doing. But just for 30 seconds, whatever it is. Maybe I'm just gonna sit and make my back feel a little less, whatever it is. I've acknowledged we're making you do way too much sitting in school. And while we're having a movement break, let's also have a coins break. I've been bad at announcing it, but I have been giving everybody 2 coins every day. So we're going to do the same. And the 8th graders get their coins because they're over at Brighton having to sit through a big old long assembly. So I'm still going to give them. They're just 5th graders came up for here's what 6th grade is going to be like.
I thought they already did that.
8th graders go to Brighton for, they have a couple of different
Someone had a sister out in the window, and you remember the day before the wolf was blinking?
That's awesome. Okay, so just a few more things. We really are almost done. LD is really not that long. So if you liked SPAR, you guys, you're going to want to do LD. Because it goes like this. SPAR is fun and easy, and then LD is the next level up, and then policy is way up here, the next level up. But there's a lot of similarities. If you were capable of taking the notes during SPAR, you could do it in LD. And there's cross-ex, right? Just like we did in SPAR. We build our speeches, then we attack. I trained you have to fill up your time, same thing in all the other types as well. And sometimes you have to debate a side you don't agree with. Okay, so there's lots of similarities. If you like SPAR, you're probably going to want to do LD. So just like yesterday, I'm going to tell you perks of LD, and I'm going to tell you things you might want to be wary of. But just like everything in life, there's good and bad about everything, okay? So make sure the only thing on your screen is the notes, so I can give all of you, because we're almost done with the 6 pieces, okay? So number 1, some kids take debate because they really want to argue. If you actually want to argue, but policy scared you, do LD, okay? Number 2, the trophies are a little physically larger. And some kids, they're all about that bling, right? They want shiny, exactly. They want that, just like Henry and his trophy case ridiculousness out there, it's all Henry. They want the chance to show off. Debate events, and this is on your notes, typically are seen by people as being a little bit more work, so they're a little more prestigious, which means they're a little more brag-worthy. And we have a really, really good high school system. We have a great high school system for oratory. We also have a really good one for LD. I do policy because policy is the hardest and I'm really, really good at it. So Fiona would be helping LD while Marianne helps oratory while I meet with policy. And then Extemp also works with Marianne. But she did LD at Albion and won, and then she went on to do it in high school. She's at Hillcrest, and she wins, and she gets paid by the district to just give us tons of extra support and help. And one thing that we did a little differently this year, we haven't done this in the past, she wrote a pre-written AF and a pre-written neg that technically people can use. That you can save yourself a bunch of time for your first tournament only. The second tournament, you'll have to write your own. But you can use her speech that she wrote so that you can get to the fun part, which is the debating. So that's cool, yeah. It actually doesn't matter because it's actually good that we have different perspectives from different types of debaters. So that's a good question, but yeah, I don't think so. So another perk, and this actually applies to every single one of you. So this is not just LD, but in debate, there's what's called speaker points. And speaker points are points awarded for how well you performed, because debate is public speaking. I want to win arguments, yeah, I want to destroy you and get that bling, but it's a real life skill. I'm learning how to be a better public speaker. So that's why everyone will get speaker points. And in oratory, what if there were 6 different judges, and that means there's 6 different first place wins? Speaker points are the tiebreaker, because it's also part of the score. And in LD, one of the benefits, it might mean double trophies. Straight up, kids have come home with double the shiny, double the debate glory, and it does happen every time. And it's because not only they got an award for winning the argument, same in policy, but they also got an award for doing the best public speaking, because you could technically lose one of your arguments but still have performed really, really well, and then get a speaker award, which is the equivalent of winning in oratory or Extemp. Yeah.
Wait, so I'm kind of confused.
Yep.
So for about the trophies, did they stay at the school?
I try and talk people into letting me show theirs off. Not everybody lets me, but it helps me convince Sixlets to take my class. But it also shows off your fame and glory. But they are yours to keep after you're done at Albion. So that's why the trophy case, we used to have a ton last year, but then all the 8th graders left and they took all their trophies with them. Yeah.
If you win with speaker points,
Yep.
and you get that trophy,
Yeah.
does it still qualify you for state?
So it's actually a rule that it doesn't qualify you for state, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it's just written in the Utah debate laws. So no, but if you compete at the varsity level, anything but a speaker award, you qualify for state, yeah.
So it's just to be you, the other person, and just the one high school judge.
Exactly, so there's not a lot of people in the room if you do LD, yeah.
So there is a state thing.
Yes, and anybody, usually half of our team qualifies because we're good. And so not everybody will go
You have to win the debate to go to
at the varsity level, which most of you will be competing varsity in April, yeah.
If you compete at varsity, is there a chance you compete against Henry?
Yes, yep, absolutely, yeah.
So do we have to do varsity to qualify?
For state, exactly. No, everyone goes to championships. There's no qualification.
So can we do novice in March and then varsity?
Exactly. But you also could technically choose to do varsity above. Yes.
Wait, so we can't go against other people from Albion?
It's rare, but it does happen. But yes, it sometimes does. Okay, so we all know Eastmont, right? Eastmont, they usually win oratory, but they're actually really mad. We've been completely destroying them at LD for the past 4 years. So yeah, they're a thing, but they're mostly oratory. So because of kids like Henry, who spend so much time just doing debate and nothing else, it's hard work to win. You can do LD and be fine, but actually getting first place, he's going to make your life really tough, yeah.
Okay, wait, so we compete against people from Albion?
Rarely, but yes, it can happen. Yep. But usually there's enough kids from Eastmont that you'll get paired up probably with somebody from a different school. Just like with policy, there is so much reading, and most of it's high school level because a lot of debate resources are made for high schoolers. Lots of note-taking. Some kids don't mind, though. Lots of thinking under pressure. Some kids love that, though. They're like, yeah, come at me. I will destroy you, right? So some kids love that. And same like policy. you're going to spend so much time researching the topic. I'm an LD expert, but I'm not a right to housing expert. So you might ask me questions and I'm like, you're going to have to go Google until you find the answer. And that's weird. That's not normal in school. And then this is silly. But honestly, I know we kind of already mentioned it, but look into the eyes of your doom. Because so Henry and Lily and Liam, they are, even if it wasn't required in first semester when we didn't have a debate class, they just kept coming and putting in all the hard work. Lily won first place at the last tournament. Henry won first place at state last year. Liam got in the top 15% last year at state. I think Lily got third at state last year. So we do really well. And so on the flip side, though, they're really willing to help. They want you to be on their team. I'm sure Henry is bummed that I'm doing LD without him because they're at Brighton, but we just had to. But they're also going to support you. So that's cool. You've got really good experts on your side. And it's also a cool challenge. What if you did? Like, if you took down Henry after all of his first place, like, think of the glory and the bragging rights. It would be that much more big of a deal. Yeah.
Wait, so did Henry go to nationals?
He is this year. Yeah, I tell kids not to go till their 8th grade year so that you know more. So on your notes, it says, I think it's like blank, blank, blank are critical. Honestly, if you really want to do well, you have to debate a lot. Same with all of you, actually. It doesn't matter what type you do. You will be truly shocked that kids go to the tournament and they've never done a practice debate, or they don't have research, or they didn't even finish their speech. And that's one of the reasons we do so well, is I force you to do a lot of hard work, but it pays off because we destroy our opponents. So you have to do a lot of practice debates. Real fast, we're running out of time. Yeah. Yeah, but no, because I won't let you until you're in 8th grade, because it's a lot of extra unpaid work for me. Yeah.
How do you spell double?
Double. Yeah.
What's the blank for if LDers don't do at least 6?
That right here, practice rounds. Yeah.
So what is that? If LDers don't do at least 6.
Practice rounds. Okay, and then this is the other one. So if you want to do LD, you could probably do just fine and not come to after school practice. But if you want to win, honestly, it's a game. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So policy, remember the difference. You cannot do policy if you can't commit to hour-long practice rounds. You can do well in LD by only coming to half an hour. But policy, I'm straight up not going to allow you because there's so much I haven't been able to teach you. So that's a big difference. But you get to work with Fiona, and she cares a lot. She's really, really good. But you technically can do well without coming to after-school practice. You're probably just going to do a lot of homework. So I'm going to show you a little example in just a second. Liam, who's not here, but he asked for everyone to take this. So everybody, I think it's smart because he's going to use what you say to help you try and convince you in his Debate 2 video to do LD with him. But I'm also going to use the results to help me tweak my teaching for next year. So everyone take this survey while I show you a fun example. And, yeah, I don't know, you had already sent it to some of you. You have homework on top of the talking to somebody that you can maybe go join them for Noble Night. You have to be ready by tomorrow. You have to be able to tell me which event you're doing, because tomorrow there's no more listening after today. You're going to start getting ready for the tournament. And so I'm going to show you an example. There's just good strategy. It's not just for LD. So even if you were thinking of doing policy, there's some really good stuff here. Yeah.
So I already submitted the thing, but I want to
Okay, so just open it back up and then just do a new attempt and resubmit, okay?
Which one destroys?
So the guy is going to destroy the girl because he set traps that are genius and awesome and so much fun. Yeah, Josh. Uh-huh. Yep. And you should. Smart debaters will do that. Okay, so I'm going to find the right place to start here.
Resulted from the International and Civil War.
This is a different topic,
initiated by another agent.
But that's okay.
Theories which explain the action's merit. So justice is defined as giving each their due.
So this was her pre-written speech. Let's just watch a tiny bit of it.
The criterion is respecting human dignity, which is the innate worth that separates people from objects. Dignity makes justice meaningful because only beings with worth are due something. For example, it would be absurd to discuss what my water bottle may be due. To respect human worth, citizens must be allowed to exercise their fundamental rights. My case will prove that making the choice to violently revolt is one of these fundamental rights, and as such, an affirmation is required to validate people's dignity and recognize this due course of action.
So she's at nationals, so that's why she's on a stage with microphones. That's not going to happen to you. Okay, so now that you've seen a little bit of her pre-written speech, her opponent stands up and is going to destroy her, and it's kind of fun to watch. And that's part of the fun in debate, is setting a good trap, and you're like, ha, you're going down.
Thus, I urge an affirmative ballot and now stand ready for cross-examination.
Okay, so you heard timer go off. Now they stand in front of the judge, and he's going to attack her, and she has to defend herself. And it's tug of war.
Let's imagine for a moment that I'm being mugged, okay?
Okay.
Do you think it's just for me to retaliate against my aggressor?
I would say that is a right of self-defense.
So it is just?
That would be just.
Okay, now would it be...
And do you see, he's like making it impossible. She has to agree with him, and you can tell. I would be nervous if I were her, because I know a trap is coming, but sometimes it's impossible. You make yourself look bad if you don't agree.
Just for me to subdue my attacker, tie him up, and then proceed to beat him with a baseball bat.
The question you seem to be asking is the answer is a little more complicated.
Sure, go
because,
ahead.
Okay, when somebody attacks you, every individual has that fundamental right to self-defense.
Okay.
So what that means is that in a question of justice and what people are due, that right is something that matters no matter how you
Okay,
implement
but
that
isn't
right.
there some sort of...
And in a good debate, remember, it's verbal tug-of-war, so I'm letting them talk some, but I'm not letting them take over.
proportionality to self-defense? Like, if you steal $1 from me, am I justified in breaking your kneecaps?
Well, my argument is that when an oppressive government uses violence against...
No, I'm just asking you a question outside of the scope of the resolution. Is there
He's forcing her
proportionality
to
with
agree.
self-defense?
The individual is allowed to use violence.
So if I take $1 from you right now, can you beat me?
The problem with your analysis...
And again, she's deflecting.
One,
That's
no,
hard to
I won't
do.
be able to beat you.
Why not?
Because, like, the situation you're drawing...
And they're making it look easy, but this is the most fun, but also the most stressful part about policy in Lincoln Douglas is it's hard once they're, like, pinning you down with their argument of, like, I have to agree. Kind of what were you going to say? Yes, because during that cross-examination portion, it's not you talk and now you talk. It's who's more powerful. It's verbal tug-of-war. Okay, so before we finish for today, does anyone need anything clarified on notes? So let's start there, because you should be turning that in and taking Liam's survey. Yeah. After school practice. Others? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even. Yeah. If you added it all up, they are actually even in the end. Okay, now, because I'm going to force you to pick which one you want to do, does anyone have any clarifying questions they want to ask about extemp or oratory or policy or LD? To do policy. LD, you can probably do fine without coming to after school practice, but if you want to win, you should be coming to after school practice. Yeah. No, there's way too much to do. So you can't do policy if you can't commit to the whole hour. And I know that's a huge bummer, but for real, that's one of the things that makes policy tough. There's just too many skills to learn. Although, for you, I might give you special circumstances because your dad runs debate for the state of Utah. So that might be a difference there. But you are going to miss out on practice debates, and that could be a downside. So something to think about. Other clarifying questions about oratory, extemp, LD, or policy?
So for LD, on the cross-examination, you just like try to get power.
Exactly. I'm trying to make you look bad. I'm trying to get you to fall for my trap. I'm trying to get you to agree with me.
You just like say things like without it and then try to like make it.
There's lots of different strategies. Some of it is let me point out the flaws in your argument. Some of it is let me try and see if I can set up a trap that you fall into. Some of it is me trying to show you why the logic of your argument was wrong. Yeah.
For LD,
Mm-hmm.
how long after school would you like say?
I would say LDers, like, if you really are wanting a shot at taking Henry down and Lily, try and come to at least half an hour. But the more time you put in, the more you get out of it. Yeah.
Would you say it's easier to learn LD or policy?
I'm glad you asked that question. So that was the next thing I want to say. But let me just point out, to remember, it's not today, it's tomorrow after school. And if you put in extra time coming to after school practice, I'm going to give you a bunch of extra candy. So that's a good thing, okay? So, as far as actually being able to win, because I'm competitive and I like winning and I get it. So, honestly, you have a really hard time winning an oratory because East won. It might happen, but it's hard to break through. You have a really hard time winning an LD because Lily and Henry and Lincoln. If you are very interested in that bling, in getting the shiny, I would probably do policy or extemp. Because the strategy, there's so many kids in our district are afraid of policy. They're like, what? It's hard? I have to use my brain? And so they don't do it. So there's actually not that many policy kids. So that makes a little bit of a difference, but it's still going to be tough. Honestly, extemp is the easiest win. because the skills are not that hard to do. And if you have half a brain and you don't just like mess around, which you guys are good at, I've seen the Indian Hills do extent. And so currently Indian Hills is winning extent, but that's just because Albion wasn't bringing our team to the first 2 tournaments this year. Once we show up, a bunch of first period kids are going to do extent because they're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I can win pretty easily. And it's going to be easy. What you do in class is not that difficult. You have to do thinking under pressure at the tournament, but I'll make you get ready during class. We're going to destroy them. If we get a good extent team going on, plus we work together a lot. So that being said, final thing we're doing before 6 pieces of candy, if I was making you choose now, which I'm not, you have to go home and think about it, how many of you are leaning towards Lincoln Douglas? Okay, and how many of you are leaning towards policy? And how many of you are leaning towards oratory? We've got quite a few in first period. And how many of you are leaning towards extent? Okay. Yeah, and if we get a couple, right, like as long as there's a few people on your team. Now, the other thing you should consider is we have experts. I know they're not here today, but you've got policy kids that would work with you and me. We have quite a lot of oratory. So if you are wanting to do oratory, you have 4 experts in our class who can help you. We don't have extent, but I will help you, and extent is very doable. And we obviously have Henry and Liam, and they would help you with Lincoln Douglas. So that should be part of your decision. Wait. Part of your decision is who do I want to have help me during third period debate, right? Because you guys are lucky. First period only has 1 debate 2 kid. They only have Jax, and they only have a policy kid, and that's it. Okay, any other questions? But start getting your 6 pieces. Yeah. No, so this week it's Wednesday. Next week it goes back to its normal Tuesday. Yeah, it's usually always. And Sophia, you're going to stop and get your candy too. Okay, you get 6 of anything out of these buckets.
I'm going to make a kiss on it.